How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, January 15th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances that took place yesterday on Friday, January 14th. Taking a step back and looking at where we are at the top of this 2022 calendar year, with the college football season being over, we are in the middle of the college basketball season as teams are entering their conference schedules. Taking a look at what's going on at the professional levels, the NFL's first playoff games will take place today as the Raiders and Bengals face off, and it's at the same time the Bills and Patriots face off, both of them AFC wild card games. I'll get into those in a second. The NBA is in the middle of its season as it's entering the second half, and they're starting to get through all-star voting. And then also soccer is entering its second half of the year as the African Cup is currently in its group stage setting for its African Cup of Nations. With that said, first, I'm going to jump into collegiate basketball's top 25. And yesterday, only two ranked teams were facing off. And starting with the 7th ranked basketball team in the nation, the Purdue Boilermakers hosted the unranked Nebraska Cornhuskers. 7th ranked Purdue would end up beating unranked Nebraska 92-65. They would win this matchup by 27 after they outscored Nebraska by 15 in the first half and by 12 in the second. On the winning end of this matchup, the 7th ranked Boilermakers were led in scoring by their starting guard, Zach Edey. He finished with 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 20 minutes. He shot 9 for 12 from the field, and with this win, the 7th ranked Purdue Boilermakers are now 14-2. They are 3-2 in the Big Ten. With this loss, unranked Nebraska is now 6-12. They are now 0-7 in the Big Ten as they look for their first conference win. Taking a look at the 25th ranked team in the nation, the Illinois Fighting Illini hosted unranked Michigan. The Illinois Fighting Illini would beat the unranked Wolverines 68-53. They won this matchup by 15 after they outscored Michigan by 11 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 25th ranked Fighting Illini were led in scoring by their starting center, Kofi Cockburn, their junior out of Kingston, Jamaica. He would go on to finish with 21 points and 10 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field and 5 for 7 from the foul line. With this win, the 25th ranked Illinois Fighting Illini are 13-3. They are 6-0 in the Big Ten. They and Michigan State are the two remaining undefeated teams, at least in Big Ten play. With this loss, the unranked Michigan Wolverines are now 7-7. They are now 1-3 in the Big Ten. Taking a look at today's matchups, starting off at noon, the 10th ranked Michigan State Spartans are going to host unranked Northwestern, as Michigan State is 5-0 in the Big Ten. At the same time, 17th ranked Xavier is going to host unranked Creighton on Fox. Xavier is 2-2 in the Big Ten. Creighton is 2-1 in the Big East, or they're 2-2 in the Big East. Creighton is 2-1 in the Big East. At the same time, at noon, the 19th ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders are going to go to Kansas State and face off against the unranked Wildcats. Texas Tech is 3-1 in the Big 12. At the same time, at 12, 20th ranked Seton Hall is going to face off against unranked Marquette in Milwaukee. Seton Hall is now 2-3 in the Big East despite still being a ranked team. At 1 o'clock, the 18th ranked Kentucky Wildcats are going to host the 22nd ranked Tennessee Volunteers in Lexington, Kentucky. Kentucky holds a 3-1 SEC record. Tennessee is 2-2 in the SEC. At 2 o'clock, the 8th ranked Duke Blue Devils are going to host the unranked North Carolina State Wolfpack. Duke is 3-1 in the ACC. And taking a look at the same time at 2 o'clock, the 9th ranked Kansas Jayhawks are going to host the unranked West Virginia Mountaineers on CBS. Kansas is 2-1 in the Big 12. West Virginia is also 2-1 in the Big 12. At the same time at 2 o'clock, the 12th ranked LSU Tigers are going to host the unranked Arkansas Razorbacks. LSU is 3-1 in the SEC. Arkansas is 1-3. At the same time at 2 o'clock, the 15th ranked Iowa State Cyclones are going to host the 21st ranked Texas Longhorns on Big 12 Network. Iowa State is 1-3 in the Big 12. Texas is 3-1 in the Big 12. Taking a look at what's going on at 4 o'clock, the unranked Santa Clara Broncos are going to host the second-ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs. That matchup is going to be taking place in Santa Clara at 4 o'clock. Gonzaga has a 2-0 record in the West Coast Conference. Santa Clara is 1-0. At 5 o'clock, the top-ranked team in the nation, the defending champs Baylor Bears, are going to host the unranked Oklahoma State Cowboys. Baylor is 3-1 in the Big 12. At 6 o'clock, the 24th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide are going to face off against unranked Mississippi State at the Humphrey Coliseum in Starkville, Mississippi. Alabama comes into this matchup with a 2-2 SEC record. At 8 o'clock, the 6th ranked Arizona Wildcats are going to host the unranked Utah Utes. That'll be on Pac-12 Network. Arizona comes into this matchup with a 3-0 record in the Pac-12. At 8 o'clock at the same time, unranked Tulsa is going to host the 11th ranked Houston Wildcats. Houston comes into this matchup with a 3-0 record in the American Conference. At 8:30, the 4th ranked Auburn Tigers are going to go to Ole Miss to face off against the unranked Rebels. Auburn comes into this matchup with a 4-0 record in the SEC. At 10:30, the 3rd-ranked UCLA Bruins are going to host the unranked Oregon State Beavers. UCLA comes into this matchup with a 2-1 Pac-12 record. And at 11 o'clock on FS1, the 5th-ranked USC Trojans are going to host the unranked Oregon Ducks. USC comes into this matchup with a 4-1 record in the Pac-12. So that is what college basketball is looking like following yesterday's matchups. Taking a look at what's going on in the NFL, the very first 2 matchups of the NFL playoffs for the 2022 Super Bowl are going to take place today. At 4:30, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to host the Las Vegas Raiders after the Bengals won the AFC North. Holding the same record, of course, the winner, we'll have to see how the other games play out to see who they're going to face off against next. And at 8:15 on CBS, the winners of the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills, are going to host the New England Patriots from within the same division at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park. Of course, the Bills do have home field advantage, having won one more game in the regular season than the Patriots. After today's 2 matchups, the amount of teams competing for the Super Bowl will drop from 14 to 12. Taking a look now at what's going on in the NBA, starting off with yesterday's matchups in Charlotte. The Charlotte Hornets hosted the Orlando Magic. The Magic would beat the Hornets 116-109. The Magic would win this matchup by 7 after they outscored the Hornets by 10 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Hornets were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard LaMelo Ball. Ball finished with 23 points, 8 assists, and 3 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 8 for 18 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Miles Bridges, finished with 20 points and 2 blocks in 42 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Orlando Magic were led in scoring by their center off the bench, Mo Wagner, out of Michigan. He finished with 26 points in 28 minutes. He shot 11 for 17 from the field and 4 for 8 from 3. With this win, the Orlando Magic are now 8-35. That is the worst record in the NBA, as they are the lone remaining team that has a single-digit amount of wins this season. The Magic have only won 1 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 14.5 games behind the 8th-seeded Washington Wizards in the Eastern Conference at the moment. With this loss, the Charlotte Hornets are now 23-20. That is the 7th best record in the East. They've lost only 3 of their last 10 games. They sit 5.5 games behind the 1st-seed Chicago Bulls in the playoff picture. Taking a look now what's going down in Detroit, the Detroit Pistons hosted the Toronto Raptors. The Pistons would end up beating the Raptors 103-87. They would win this matchup by 16 after they outscored the Raptors by a combined 13 points in the first half. The Pistons, with this win, are no longer, they leave the Magic as the only team with a single-digit amount of wins in this NBA season. On the losing end of this matchup, the Toronto Raptors were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard Fred VanVleet. VanVleet finished with 24 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals in 42 minutes. He shot 6 for 21 from the field, 6 for 14 from 3, and 6 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Pascal Siakam, finished with 23 points, 11 rebounds as well in 41 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and he shot 6 for 9 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Detroit Pistons were led in scoring by their power forward off the bench, Trey Lyles. He finished with 21 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 33 minutes. He shot 6 for 10 from the field, and he shot 9 for 10 from the foul line. With this win, the Detroit Pistons are now 10-31. That is the second worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they've won 5 of their last 10 games. They currently trail the 8th seed Washington Wizards by 11.5 games in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the Toronto Raptors are now 20-19. That is the 9th best record in the East. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've only lost 4 of their last 10. They only sit half a game behind the 8th-seeded Washington Wizards out east. Taking a look at what went down in Indianapolis, the Indiana Pacers hosted the Phoenix Suns. The Suns beat the Pacers 112-94 to hold on to the best record in the West. The Suns won this matchup by 18 after they outscored the Pacers by a combined 8 in the first half, and then by 14 in the fourth quarter alone. On the losing end of this matchup, the Indiana Pacers were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Justin Holiday. Justin Holiday out of Washington would go on to finish with 25 points, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. All of this in 37 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field and 7 for 14 from 3. Their starting shooting guard out of Michigan, Caris LeVert, finished with 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 9 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Phoenix Suns were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Kentucky, Devin Booker. Booker finished with 35 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 11 for 25 from the field, 6 for 13 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting center and former number 1 overall pick, DeAndre Ayton, finished with 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 steals in 30 minutes. Ayton shot 12 for 18 from the field. He made his only three-pointer on the night, and he shot a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, Chris Paul, finished with 12 points, 3 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 5 for 10 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Phoenix Suns are now 32-9. That is the best record in the Western Conference and the best record in the NBA. They remain the lone team in the NBA that has a single-digit amount of losses. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. They sit a game and a half ahead of the second-place Golden State Warriors, and they only have 9 losses in their first half of the season, which hints that they're having a pretty solid year. On the losing end of this matchup, the Indiana Pacers are now 15-28. That is the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 3 games. They've lost 9 of their last 10. They sit 7.5 games behind the 8th place Washington Wizards out east. Taking a look now at what's going down in Philadelphia, the 76ers hosted the Boston Celtics. The Philadelphia 76ers would beat the Boston Celtics 111-99. They won this matchup by 12 after they outscored the Celtics by 18 in the first quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Boston Celtics were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Jaylen Brown. Brown finished with 21 points and 5 turnovers in 32 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field and 5 for 6 from the foul line. Their elite starting small forward out of Duke, Jason Tatum, finished with 20 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and 7 turnovers in 32 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Philadelphia 76ers were led in scoring by their elite starting center, Joel Embiid. He finished with 25 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists in 32 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Tyrese Maxey, finished with 23 points and 5 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 8 for 16 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 24-17. That is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 8 of their last 10 games, and they sit 3.5 games behind the first seed Chicago Bulls out east. With this loss, the Boston Celtics are now 21-22. That is the 5th worst record out east. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games. They now sit 7.5 games behind the first seed Chicago Bulls, and they sit a game and a half behind the 8th seed Washington Wizards outside of the playoff picture. Jumping out to Chicago, the Bulls hosted the Golden State Warriors on primetime, and the Warriors would end up beating the Bulls 138-96. The Warriors won this matchup by 42 after they outscored the Bulls in every single quarter. They outscored the Bulls by 9 in the first quarter. They outscored them by 22 in the second, 9 in the third, and then by an additional 2 in the fourth. On the losing end of this matchup, the Chicago Bulls were led in scoring by their point guard off the bench, Coby White. Coby White finished with 20 points in 29 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the Golden State Warriors were led in scoring by their by their power forward off the bench, Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga finished with 25 points and 3 blocks in 26 minutes. He shot 10 for 12 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Jonathan Poole, finished with 22 points and 5 assists in 29 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and he made his only foul attempt of the night. Their starting small forward, Andrew Wiggins, finished with 21 points and 6 assists in 28 minutes. He shot 8 for 11 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 2 for 4 from the foul line. The Warriors' goated starting point guard, Stephen Curry, finished with 19 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists in 28 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Golden State Warriors are now 31-11. That is the second best record in the Western Conference. They won 5 of their last 10 games as they sit a game and a half behind the Phoenix Suns, who had the best record in basketball. With this loss, the Chicago Bulls are now 27-13. That is still the best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 2 games. They've lost 3 of their last 10. They sit a game ahead of the second place Miami Heat out east. Taking a look at what went down in Miami, speaking of the Heat were able to capitalize on this Bulls loss as they hosted the Atlanta Hawks. The Heat beat the Hawks 124-118. The Heat won this matchup by 6 after they outscored the Hawks by 11 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Trae Young. Young finished with 24 points, 3 rebounds, and 9 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. Their starting small forward out of Virginia, DeAndre Hunter, finished with 20 points and 3 blocks in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Miami Heat were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, out of Marquette. He led the starters in scoring as he finished with 23 points, 3 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field and 9 for 9 from the foul line. The team leader in points came off the bench, and it was Tyler Hero out of Kentucky. He finished with 24 points in 32 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Miami Heat are now 27-15. That is the second best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 4 games. That is the longest winning streak in the Eastern Conference and the NBA for the moment. The Heat have won 8 of their last 10 games. They sit 1 game behind the first place Chicago Bulls out east. With this loss, the Atlanta Hawks are now 17-24. That is the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 4 games. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They sit 4.5 games behind the 8-seed Washington Wizards out east. Taking a look now at what went down in San Antonio, the Spurs hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers would beat the Spurs 114-109. The Cavs won this matchup by 5 after they outscored the Spurs by 7 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 2-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Spurs were led in scoring by their starting point guard, DeJounte Murray. He finished with 30 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 14 for 23 from the field, and he would shoot 1 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Cleveland Cavaliers were led in scoring by their starting point guard, Darius Garland. Garland finished with 32 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 11 for 25 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 25-18. That is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 3 games. They've won 5 of their last 10. They sit 3.5 games behind the first seed Chicago Bulls out east. With this loss, the San Antonio Spurs are now 15-27. That is the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference as they've lost their last 5 games. That is the longest losing streak in the NBA for the time being. They've also lost 9 of their last 10 games. They sit 5.5 games behind the 8th seed Los Angeles Clippers out west. Jumping out to Memphis, the Grizzlies hosted the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks would end up beating the Grizzlies 112-85. The Mavericks won this matchup by 27 after they outscored the Grizzlies by 16 in the third quarter and by 16 in the fourth quarter as well, outscoring them by 32 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Memphis Grizzlies were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Ja Morant. He finished with 19 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals, as well as 8 turnovers in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 15 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and he shot 2 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Dallas Mavericks were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard out of Slovenia, Luka Doncic. He finished with 27 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, and 6 turnovers in 32 minutes. He shot 12 for 22 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Dallas Mavericks are now 23-19. That is the 5th best record in the Western Conference. They've won 8 of their last 10 games, and they sit 9.5 games behind the first seed Phoenix Suns out west. With this loss, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 30-15 as their 11-game winning streak came to a halt. They've only lost 1 of their last 10 or even 15 games or 13 games. And they now sit 4 games behind the first seed Phoenix Suns out west, just to get a sense of where they are. And then last but not least, jumping out to Sacramento, the Kings hosted the Houston Rockets. The Sacramento Kings would beat the Houston Rockets 126-114. The Kings won this matchup by 12 after they outscored the Rockets by 14 in the second quarter and an additional 7 for the entire second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Houston Rockets were led in scoring by their starting center, Christian Wood. Wood finished with 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals in 26 minutes. He shot 8 for 15 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Sacramento Kings were led in scoring by their starting point guard, De'Aaron Fox, out of Kentucky. He would go on to finish with 27 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 11 for 18 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 3 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting power forward out of Duke, Marvin Bagley III, finished with 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 33 minutes. He shot 12 for 20 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Sacramento Kings are now 18-27. That is the 10th best record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 2 games. They've won 4 of their last 10. They sit 4 games behind the 8th seed LA Clippers out west. With this loss, the Houston Rockets are now 12-32. That is the worst record in the Western Conference. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They currently sit 9.5 games behind the 8th seed LA Clippers out west. So that is currently where they sit. That is how the NBA is looking after yesterday's performances. Looking at what's going on today, starting with the primetime matchups, because today is Saturday. The lone matchup will be at 9 o'clock on NBA TV as the Denver Nuggets host the Los Angeles Lakers. The Nuggets hold the 6th best record in the West as the Lakers hold the 7th best record in the West, as Nikola Jokic versus LeBron James is, of course, bound to be an amazing matchup in 2022. Looking at the games that aren't going to be on primetime, at 6:30, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks are going to host the Toronto Raptors in the Pfizer V Forum, Milwaukee. At 7 o'clock, the Washington Wizards are going to host the Portland Trailblazers in the Capital One Arena in D.C. I'm going to be at that one. At 7:30, the Atlanta Hawks are going to host the New York Knicks in the State Farm Arena. At 7:30, the Brooklyn Nets are going to host the New Orleans Pelicans at the Barclays Center. At 8 o'clock, the Miami Heat are going to host the Philadelphia 76ers at the FTX Arena. At the same time, at 8, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to host the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Paycom Center. At 8:30, the Boston Celtics are going to host the Chicago Bulls at the TD Garden, the Bulls holding the best record in the East. At 8:30, the San Antonio Spurs are going to host the LA Clippers in the AT&T Center, as the Spurs are holding the worst losing record in basketball at the moment. And then at 9:30, the Dallas Mavericks are going to host the Orlando Magic, as the Magic hold the worst record in all of basketball right now. Taking a look at what went down in the world of soccer yesterday, starting off in the African Cup of Nations, there were 4 group stage matchups. Senegal drew with Guinea 0-0. Malawi was able to beat Zimbabwe 2-1 as they were able to get a brace from Frank Mango. Additionally, in that group, Morocco was able to beat Comoros Island 2-0, and then Gabon drew 1-1 with Ghana. Taking a look outside of there, the lone big matchups that took place yesterday within a league was Borussia Dortmund facing off against Freiburg. Borussia Dortmund was able to beat Freiburg 5-1 at Dortmund. They were able to get a brace from Meunier in the first half. They got a brace from their elite Norwegian striker Erling Haaland in this. Or I guess he got his first goal at the end of the first half and his second goal in the second half. And then Dahoud would score in the 86th minute. With this win, Borussia Dortmund now sits 3 points behind Bayern Munich, but Bayern Munich will have a chance to capitalize on that today. Bayern Munich will face off against their opponent, FC Cologne. With a win here, they could jump right back up to the top of the Bundesliga. Taking a look at what's going on in the Premier League, Man City, who's sitting at the top, is going to face off against Chelsea, who sits second. A win here would put Man City above, and of course a win would bring Chelsea to within 5. And also taking a look at what's going on today at 12:30, Aston Villa is going to face off against Manchester United. In looking at the Serie A, Juventus is going to face off against Udinese, as Juventus is currently sitting 5th in Serie A. A win could possibly bring them within it would put them within the same amount of points as Atalanta if Atalanta does not pick up any points in their next matchup. And then in Ligue 1, PSG is going to host Brest at 3 o'clock. And at the moment, they are sitting 8 points clear of second place Nice at the moment. So a win would do a lot for them. So that is what soccer is looking like. That's everything that I have for you today. And first, I want to thank the ESPN, the NCAA, NFL, NBA, and FIFA websites for giving me all the stats and figures that I needed for today's episode, because I wouldn't be able to do it without them. And of course, I want to thank everybody for listening to all 27 minutes of this piece. And with that said, once all of today's matchups and exhibitions are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Sunday, January 16th, for another episode of this piece. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I have a few more episodes after this to preview the upcoming NFL wildcard round, and to, of course, congratulate all the NFL players that have been named to the All-NFL teams. And with that said, thanks for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another piece after this. Peace out.